Right. First off, a barrage of notes about sanding. I think most of you know this, but just to plough through it all, don't get your hand jammed between the sandpaper and the tool rest.
Yeah.
It hurts, apparently.
It also takes 6 months for your nail to regrow. It's just finished.
Only 6 months.
When you're abrading, keep the speed down. 600 is not a magic figure, but don't do it at 2,500 because all you do is sand the top. You don't actually manage to abrade the body of the piece. Keep everything moving if you're doing it by hand. However you're sanding, if you possibly can, whether you're using a rotary sander or not, endeavour to try and sand along the grain between the grits, because that does help diminish your scratches. The safe zone is the bit, as you see the professionals when they're sanding that, sanding down at the bottom 8 o'clock, bottom left as you looked at the headstock, which does mean that if you get a catch, your hand is just pushed away. At the worst, your hand bounces on the bedway when you're holding your sandpaper. 80 grit and 100, 120 grit, use it. Don't go to your higher grits too soon, because there's this macho is perhaps not the right word in a multi-sexed environment, but there's this macho bit about, I start at 240 grit, and it doesn't matter what you start at, you need to get rid of all your marks, all your blemishes with your coarser grits, 80 to 120. As you get 180 and upwards, all that does is remove the scratches that you introduced through your previous sandings.
Yeah, I thought so.
Hang on. One thing I'd say, Malcolm, is if you push too hard as you're sanding, you'll cause scoring. So you need to get a balance of pressure, so you don't just add more and more scratches.
Yes, and you need to keep it moving. And if it's not working with one type of sanding by hand, then use rotary sanding and whatever version of that you've actually got. I use rotary sanding wherever I possibly can. I use it and try to avoid hand sanding unless I can't do anything else personally. There is a theory that if you sand much beyond 400, unless it's an exotic like ebony, that you're not actually doing anything, because the grain of the wood can't really be sanded any smoother than 400. That's a theory.
Yeah, but resin needs higher sanding grit.
Yeah, it's not a wood, so yes. My comment was about wood, but you're quite right. None of this deals with anything other than wood. But yes. Don't stick your fingers inside vessels. Use your sanding sticks if you can, or something. You get in there. Try not to stick more than half your finger down there. If you can, I've got a picture in a minute. Make your own little sanding arbors or buy them. And the key point, I think, is that a lot of beginners seem to not get their head around is that you can't always sand everything that you want with the wood moving. If you have your end grain pluck at the bottom of your bowl or the side of the bowl, and you keep just powering it away, you'll just get deeper and deeper scores from the scratches, as John said, if you press harder and harder with your 80 or 100 grit. Just stop the lathe, use the power sander, if necessary by hand, and abrade the bits where the end grain is plucked that you can't get with it spinning. It makes a big difference. And you might have a bowl that's now 1/1000th of an inch less diameter in one direction than in the other direction, but who cares? Burnish with shavings if you want afterwards.
Well, Malcolm, just one thing. I mean, if you've hollowed out and you've got a flat base at the bottom of whatever it is, and your tool has left quite a lot of, let's say, pluck and scratches. What's the best way of getting to the base of it? you said a rotary sander. Is that what you?
Well, you've got to try and get rid of as much as you possibly can with your tool. If you can't do it with anything else, then freshly sharpen some sort of scraper. I prefer a negative rate scraper, but it doesn't actually matter as long as you're confident. If you're going into a bowl or a hollow form with any depth, get a bigger, fatter, stronger scraper. Don't go in with a 3/4 inch wide one if you're going in too far. Go and spend the money on one that's a 1/4 of an inch thick and 1.5 inches wide and weighs a ton. With a long handle, that'll make it more stable, because otherwise it kicks around. It'll take you out under the jaw if you're not careful. But I think the key point for me is a bit of power sanding. So I've got 9-inch extension pieces that go into the drill, so that I can put the arbor on the end of that and stick that right down the bottom. If it's any deeper than that, you've got to ask yourself whether you're actually doing something that's achievable. So,
have you got some pictures of that later, of the arbor and what
possibly,
you do?
Possibly. I'm not too sure what I've got. Well, I mean, there's the Simon Hope kit, which is this sort of stuff, which I will get teased a lot. But I think Simon Hope's equipment is extremely good and very well priced. But he doesn't give discounts.
But you're sponsored, are you?
Yeah. So getting the set of 50mm diameter standing pads is almost a no-brainer. I'm not sure how anybody can really cope without something like that. You can get individual standing pads, but the advantage of the Simon Hope system is that the interleave, the pad, the bit between the base of the pad, the blue bit, and the Endasa abrasion pad is disposable, because if you put too much pressure on and you overheat it, it will shred the interface. So they're 2 or 3 quid for the interface rather than 15 quid, 30 quid, whatever it is, to buy the whole thing.
I think you can also buy them on Amazon or eBay.
You can buy these types, can you, as a set?
Sure you can.
Okay, I didn't know that when I bought.
And that can do the base and the walls at the bottom as well, can it? It can get in there.
Well, you're then into the question as to whether, I mean, that picture doesn't show an extension arm on it, but just a normal, drill extension piece. And if you can't get that in because the angle of the dangle doesn't work, then you can play about with different options. This is again a Simon Hope inertia tool. Is that the right term?
Mm-hmm.
With a crankable head. It's got a very nice small head. A lot of the competitor ones have got quite big chunky heads that are quite difficult to get in a hole. So I bought the extension arm, which is probably 20 inches long, which means I can tuck it under my arm and get right down inside a bowl. I've got a set of 35mm sanding discs as well, which again is Simon Hope. So you can bend this head at sort of 90 degrees or 70 degrees, which means you can slightly get it round the corner. And you have to watch it, because if you get a catch, then the standing pad flies off. And as I know, with a strong vacuum, they can end up getting sucked up the bloody vacuum, and you've got to dismantle the cam vac to find it. But I find if I'm doing anything at all deep, I will be using this, and I will be using the extension arm with a sanding pad on the end of it, different 35s and 50s, and I'll be using my sanding sticks and DIY ones with padding around it and abranet stuck on the end. You have to basically use all of it if you want to try and cope with different angles and different pieces.
Often an L-shaped angle grinder type tool, power tool, will work better.
Thank you, Clive. I've got a cheap Ryobi right angle electric drill, which means that you can, and I find that I haven't got a picture of it, but I find that quite useful, because it's quite a long body and it doesn't go very fast because it was only cheap. And I'm sure the bearings are knackered fairly quickly. But you can tuck that under your arm, and you can put the the pad in, and it's probably 3 inches wide, 3.5 inches wide, so you can get it into quite a few deeper places than just a straightforward drill.
And sorry, Malcolm, what was that top thing? The long pole one. What was that called?
This one.
Yeah, what was that?
Would you call
the
it?
The grey one, the top one on the left.
It's Simon Hope makes it, and I think it's called the Pro Sander from my caption, the Hope Bowl Pro Sander.
Oh, right, sorry.
That's all right. I think I'm recording this, but I can distribute the presentation to anybody that wants afterwards. I think it's recording. Can't actually tell.
It is.
Just say it is recording.
Unless you turned it off, then it is, because it came up.
It is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's showing on the top of my screen as recording.
Yeah.
Plus AI.
And you can obviously put one of these into any drill chuck. And if you haven't got anything, sorry to flip about, if you haven't got anything like a faceplate, or you haven't got a bench sander with a faceplate on it, and you want to braid the bottom of a bowl, or you want to braid something that's easier for you to pick it up and stick it against something rather than the other way around, then I discovered that the 50mm one is just neatly the metal backing. There's a metal backing plate here. Just standard record power chuck. It just grips the metal plate, and in a couple of seconds you've got a mini arbor. Clive has made ones with a threaded wooden chuck. You can make a variety of ways of gripping it. The thing I don't like doing is I don't like putting a Jacobs chuck in the Morse taper, because it tends to come out unless you've got a drawbar that anchors it through the hollow headstock, which is a pain in the arse, and most people wouldn't do that. So something that's screw threaded onto the headstock, and in my case I figured out I could just grip those on quite quickly, or you can do a face plate and stick a bit of timber on it and stick something on the face, and you've got your own homemade faceplate sander.
The thing with faceplate, the best thing to do is put Velcro. You can get Velcro pads in. I used to be able to get them in Axminster. I think they do them online as well. So then you just get the Velcro sanding pads and stick on there. So much easier. That's
what that one is. That's a Velcro sanding pad. Yeah, and you can just see
it's big enough for the whole disc.
Yeah, well, that's a 9-inch pad, I think, on there. So it's as big as I wanted. You can see a pencil circle that I drew on there, so I knew that because the Velcro is just about 10 little squares of Velcro, sticky back Velcro on it.
Yeah, I thought I'd do it that way, but you can get a proper pad.
Well, I'm cheap. I just use the ones that go on my other units. So that was a bit about sanding. I thought I'd be contentious and suggest that Abranet was shit and see what people think.
Oh, well, we'll leave now, shall we?
No, I like Abranet, but also I use cloth. I use all sorts of stuff depending on what I'm doing, I suppose.
Well, I used to use Abranet almost exclusively, and I still got quite a lot of it, and it is very good for anything. As if John braids his greenwood at all, you can knock out the puree that rapidly accumulates, and you can let it dry or blast it out with your airline. I have to say, some of the stock I bought, which is supposed to be genuine Mirko Abranet, doesn't seem to last as long.
Yeah, that way.
I use cloth back stuff for most of it, but I would agree with you. Green turning, you do clog up very quickly.
And I actually use because I ended up buying a load of the Rhino Indasa Rhino grip stuff off eBay or somewhere that fits the Simon Hope, because his spares are quite expensive. And I find I resort to using these. I just hold it with the pad on and with the sanding thing on in my hand, and I'll just often use that because it's also got a soft, mouldable interface.
Yeah, I've used those before as well.
Not too much strain your fingers, as you're not doing too hard.
Yeah, it means that it's a self-regulating approach. There are lots of different brands of. I think it's aluminium or some sort of aluminium ceramic oxide on these ones. But having the Rhino grip is Velcro backed, which does mean that a bit like, where are we? These jobbies, they've got a fluffy Velcro back to them, so they will tack to any other tools that you choose to make, including these types of things. It's not just the Abranet that will hold on to it. But Abranet, it sort of seemed to take over. And I just find, though, that the coarser grits, I find they tend to make deeper scratches and that it's a little harder to remove them. But that's just a personal comment.
Well, I think you some time ago, didn't you buy a big load of them? And you were selling them off, and I got whatever the coarsest one is.
Yeah.
And I find it very good. Perhaps it's because you're a bit of a hooligan, is it? You press too hard?
No, I find that the 80 grit is extremely effective at getting rid of wood. Maybe I'm a bit of a hooligan. I will still use the 80 grit quite commonly from the Abranet, but all the other ones I tend to move now more towards using cloth back stuff. But not exclusively. As Shirley said, you do a bit of this and then you get bored with that and you do something else. But
how do you hold your Abranet? I've got a small sort of whatever it is, about 5x3 pad, of which it clamps to like Velcro, and that collects the dust behind the pad, and you can quickly rip it off and clean it. So that works very well for me. It's very it's soft. It's like any of the arbors, in construction, but it's a hand pad specifically designed for the size of Abranet.
Well, no, I've got the system that you can tack it onto, and you stick it to a vacuum, and it sucks the dust out for when you're sanding doors and stuff. That's incredibly effective. It really does almost suck all of the dust away. But I never fancy using that on the lathe. No, I'm a bit of a heathen. I'll just sort of grab it and do it rather than plan it in advance. But does that help the script scratching?
I've got the stuff on a roll, so I just cut slices off when I need them, and when they've worn out, I'll throw them away and cut another slice.
And that's out of the Abranet, yeah? Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask what the general view was of cloth-based papers versus paper-based backed papers. Anybody got any views on that?
I found the paperback way tends to wear out a lot more quickly.
And they don't bend properly either.
No, they crease, don't they?
I think the other problem with the paperbacked ones is you can get a fold in it, and it can give you a score on the wood where you're sanding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I quite like the Hermes J-Flex. They're the blue ones, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah, they are nice. Yeah,
but toward the end, when Axeman, they didn't appear to have too much of it.
They didn't.
And I used to buy, I think it came in meter little rolls, didn't it? Which was ideal for me. And I don't do a great deal, so it was brilliant. But I'm gradually running out.
I bought a load from Yandles last time I was down there.
Did you?
So
they do the cloth backed rolls. I've got Claire some as well. I'm sure I'll be down there again in the spring sometime if anybody wants some.
And I'm sure we don't have a club shop because it's a pain in the backside. But there's enough people want something. It is possible to do a bulk order and
save on postage.
And save on postage, which we've done on a couple of occasions. By the way, Clive helped me.
I pass by Yandles every few weeks on my way down to Devon,
well, that's useful.
we always stop there have a bit of lunch or something.
Yeah, it's nice there.
Yeah, it's a nice place to have lunch.
Yeah,
There's a cafe a bit further back near the 303 that's even better.
Yeah, but they don't sell
Cafe,
wood.
Yeah, but you can go there first.
One of the people I've used in the past is CSM abrasives. Anybody use them? They are just suppliers of huge range of abrasives for all sorts. So,
I've heard of those.
I may have done.
I've
just for the cheapest.
Just looked up their catalogue. See, it's dated 2001, but there you go.
Is that an online shop, is it, Richard?
Yeah, you can go online to them. Yeah, they might have a secondary name, but I think you should find it under that. Yeah.
But Barry alluded to that I bought a whole load of stuff at one point. I think it was the time I bought a load of the Abranet that was in, I don't know, probably 15-inch long strips that was, they used those for body, car body sanding, so that they somehow or other put them on something flexible for abrading filler on in body shops. So I would buy them from a body shop supplier, and they worked out at about a third of the price of buying the sort of 4 or 5 inch long pieces. So I'm still
that's the one I got from you, was in its own little box.
Yeah,
50 sheets or something.
Something like that. Yeah. And they last. I've still got about 2/3 of what I bought.
I found it very, very good.
Is that the same porn version of the BWA? Is it sandpaper?
Anyway, just chuntering on so that I can finish me and you can have an open chat. Don't want to be here forever for me. That's just a photograph of the buffing wheel system from Chestnut, which if you haven't got it or something similar, I find it very useful. I must admit, when I first got it, I did slavishly use the brown, I've forgotten what they call that, and the aluminium oxide, the white, and then the buffing with the Canuba. I must admit, I tend not to do that now. I tend to find that I've done enough of a reasonable, sensible finish with all of the various techniques, and I just use the Canuba and the buffing as the final finish. It does make a massive difference on the depth of the shine of anything that's got a wax or anything else on it. You have to be careful if you've done something like friction polish, because it has to be really, really hard, because the heat generated from spinning up your polishing mop can peel off the layers below, including acrylic lacquer, if you've not let it go off and you're too impatient, like somebody like me must have learnt by finding out that happens. But the polishing mop, just on something you've waxed and you buff by hand, you buff it up with the polishing mop, and you get this real deep fat shine out of it.
When I spoke to Gary Rance at Christmas, when he was showing me all the apples that he does and the incredible shine that he gets on those, and he said, I said, what's the secret? And he talked about this buffing system, which I have actually got, because when I went to the Swindon show, I bought one there. But he said he uses spray lacquer.
He does, yeah.
And then he uses the buffing system.
Yeah.
And so I've just, as a Christmas present, I asked for some lacquer, and I've got some, so I'm going to give it a go. But you've got to be careful. You've really allowed that to dry. Is that really what the same like with wax? You've got to allow it to properly dry, otherwise you just strip it back off again, presumably.
Yes, that was my comment. I'm going to go through stains, sealers, waxes, lacquers, and it might just prompt different questions at different stages. So,
just to interject, though, I mean, going back to the buffing system, it is for buffing, and if you buff your shoes up with a dry cloth or something like that, you don't rub it that hard. It is just to be applied lightly. That gets the sheen properly, and then you shouldn't get the burning and dissolving the lacquer.
Yeah. I mean, I have in my impatience sometimes done it about 40 minutes after the lacquer's been sprayed on. So, not a good idea.
What's the best speed for that, Malk? For the buffing system?
I run mine at, well, the faster you run it, the harder the actual mop appears to become because of centrifugal whatevers. So if I'm doing something where I want to do it quickly and I want to do it quite robustly, I'll run it at about 1200. If I've got something which has got slightly more nooks and crannies in it, I run it at about 800, and then the fibre in the flap effectively will open, so you can then get corners to go inside the flap, and you've got to be careful that it doesn't wrench it out of your hand.
Yeah, that you do have to concentrate because they do fly around sometimes.
And I've also
just sort of false sense because you think it's just some cloth going round, and it's literally a couple of times things have been ripped out of my hand.
Yeah.
Smashed into the lathe and taken a big chunk out. So
well, that's all about, again, holding it in the 8 o'clock position low down so that if it does fly, it doesn't hit you in the face. And yes, respecting that the faster it's going, the more likely it is to catch you unawares. I've also got the dome-shaped ones, which are for the inside of bowls. And they don't abrade as effectively, they don't buff as effectively, but they do work well on the inside of things. Other small tips are when you get them when they're new, they'll be generating quite a lot of fluff. So if you've got a wire brush, a big old-fashioned coarse wire brush, hold that up against it and it will pull out a lot of the excess cotton from the mop. And also, the more that you use them, the more I've forgotten what their stuff's called, the aluminium oxide or the other stuff. It's got a name, hasn't it? The brown stuff. Tripoli, thank you. It will clog the fibres. So again, I'll clean it with a wire brush occasionally. But occasionally I'm talking after 1 or 2 years of use at hobby level, not every fortnight.
Years ago, I bought the Beal system, as recommended by Paul Nesbitt at Surrey, and I said to him, "Well, you've put me on a bum steer, mate." I said, "Bloody awful! It don't work at all." He said, "Well, what speed are you running it at?" I said, 700. He said, "You silly bugger." He said, "It's 1700." Put it up to 1700. Beautiful.
I've got the Beal system as well, and I find that it comes unscrewed.
Do you?
I have to use the tailstock up against the
yes, I always do. Yeah, that's true.
I just found my notes that I took when we were having a talk from Terry. He said buffing wheels A and B go at 1100 RPM, and for C, putting on the Canuba wax, reduce it.
Reduce it, right? Okay.
So you bit of paper.
So my range of 800 to 1200 is probably in the.
Yeah, probably right. But it was the first two are faster than the third.
Interesting. And don't put too much Canuba on, because if you do, then it will smear with the very first time that you put it on. When you rub the Canuba stick against it, you just need to rub it enough so you can smell the fragrance, not so that you can feel it clagged on there. Less is more. Far better to buff it with a light dust of the Canuba, check it out, then do it again.
Right.
And depending on the chuck you've got, the system will either sit in the chuck nice and square, or it'll wobble. That's part of life's rich tapestry. And you can also put them in the arbor that will go into your pillar drill, so you can hold something in that regard. If it's safer, you can hold it against a pillar drill. Not that I ever do, I must admit. And you can buy cheap little buffing mops that will fit into electric drill and make your own DIY system. You don't have to spend the money out on chestnut or Beal if you don't want to. Right, quick run through. Well, maybe it's quickish, I don't know. A small tip, Wiggly DIY is the best place for buying more than 50 or 60 quid's worth of stuff at a time, because postage is free and it's 20%, typically 20% less than the full Chestnut price for their consumables. This is a hot link. I don't know, that was when I click it. Nothing. I don't know. Where have I gone to? No, it just takes it from my screen, but doesn't help your screen. Okay, so small tip: if you're finishing anything, put your stains on first, then seal it afterwards, and then finish with it after that. Don't forget, if you put a sealer over a stain, if it's a water-based stain, and you use a water-based acrylic sealer, it can move it, and that may be what you want. You may want to blend your sealers, but blend your stains. If you've got a chestnut spirit stain as the base stains, then it's often sensible to use an acrylic sealer, because that won't mobilise your spirit stain quite so much, unless you want to blend it. There's a whole variety of different ranges of sealers. So I did it in this order. I did the sealer and then different types of finishes after that. Again, it's fairly obvious. I don't need to read it all out, but you've got cellulose, acrylic, and spirit-based sealers, shellac and non-shellac based ones. You've got shellac sealers that have got a wax content to them, and you've got cellulose sanding sealer, which is effectively inert once it's gone off. But you can also get a shellac sealer cut by Zinza, seal coats. Quite expensive in this country, but given the prices that Chestnut have gone up to, it's no longer ridiculously expensive. And that's a de-waxed shellac. They like that in America, because I don't think they have had the Chestnut cellulose sanding sealer quite heavily marketed to them. I've had a bottle, and it's very effective. You can actually use any finish on top that you want afterwards that is compatible with a sealer. I'm not necessarily recommending it. I'm just saying that there's more products out there than just Chestnut. The Chestnut stuff is very good.
I'd argue about that sand clean then apply sealer, though.
Say that again, Clive. I missed the start. Sorry, mate.
I'd argue against your comment, sand clean then apply sealer, because I tend to sand up to about 240 and then apply sealer and then finish off with 400. After in other words, you're taking off the denibbing of the actual sanding sealer.
Well, I'm sure there are subtleties in there. I mean, the main thing is that you don't want to apply a sealer to a rough surface that you need to get rid of the scratches. The Terry will tell you, I'm sure, Clive, we've all heard this, that products like his cellulose sanding sealer have a body to the goop, so that when you apply it and it feels rough, it's not the grain that's raised, it's the slight abrasive content in his sanding sealer. So when you then denib or go for a fine abrasion over the top, you're actually just removing that content off the absolute surface. The cellulose sanding sealer is bonded then into the grain in the wood. So you're not resanding the wood, you're removing the body of the sanding sealer. So
essentially you're denibbing and using a grain, I think it's grain Web is the one, for it's about 400 grit, isn't it? To denib works quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I will normally sand to 240 for stuff that I can't be bothered with too much, which is quite a lot of the stuff that I've submitted for competitions, according to Chris Cox. But if you...
Sorry, I've got a bit of a dodgy connection. I've been thrown out once, so apologies for that again. How important is it between sanding each grit to then clean off between grits? does that have an effect?
Yeah.
That's a sort of noticeable. I mean, I tend to use something like meths or alcohol, to clean between grits. So that by the time you get to your final one, then
I think Stuart Farini and Martin Saban-Smith will both suggest using a cloth.
I use
tack cloth.
Or a tack cloth.
Get a tack cloth, yeah.
Yeah,
in preference to something like an alcohol.
Yeah, because tacky cloth you can use over and over again. You just stick it in a jar so you seal it in, so it doesn't dry out. That's a jam jar.
I just use an old sports sock turned inside out, so you've got the sort of toweling loopy bits on the outside.
Without your feet in it?
Without my feet.
And you need to do that before you put your sanding sealer on.
And you want to be careful if you've got something like oak, though, because it still has quite a bit of grain, and that can pick up the lint. So watch that one.
It definitely can. I mean, I just blast it with my airline because the idea of grabbing... I've got a whole box of tack cloths. I mentioned it sarcastically in my notes to see how many people use tack cloths. Yeah. I can't be bothered personally, but...
I use them, they're good.
Yeah, I always use tack cloth.
Yeah, I would recommend that you do.
Malc, one of those attachments, I can't remember which one you sent with the email. It talked about crepe rubber.
Yeah.
Is that another term for a tack cloth, or is that
that's
something
for
else?
cleaning sandpaper.
That's for cleaning
That's
sandpaper.
for cleaning sandpaper. Okay, that's not for.
Yeah. You buy them in a block, which is about 2 inches square and whatever length, and you just really put it hard onto the sandpaper when it's revolving, and it will clean all the grit, all the muck and bullets out of it, and re-clean it. It burns. It goes a funny sort of.
It shreds rubbery. Like a rubber when you rub.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
It's
much softer than
It's
much
brilliant.
softer than a pencil rubber, though. It's funny material, but definitely worth having, especially if you're using it on a rotary or a belt drive sander.
Oh right, okay.
I think you can also, if you're a tightwad, you can use a load of plastic bags screwed up, and it has the same effect.
Really? But it uses those up quickly.
Yeah, that's our treasure talking, tightwad.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd try that.
Well, it works.
Fair enough.
You get a load of plastic bags, roll them up, put a bit of sellotape around them, and use it like a stick.
But these sticks, they aren't very expensive.
No,
they'll last forever. I mean, I've got one that I've had for 10 years, and I've still only used a third of it. And it's very good for cleaning the belt sander, particularly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's all right now because I've not got a belt sander, so I haven't had to clean sandpaper in that way.
If you've got Abranet, you can wash it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've done that. Yeah.
Stick it in a bucket and puddle it up and down with some hot water. You'll get rid of a lot of it.
Or just throw it away and use a new piece.
I've done that as well.
Yeah. So when is it beyond its usability? I know that sounds a really daft question.
Pick a new piece up in your hand and rub your finger over it. Pick up your old piece and run your finger over it. When the old one feels flat and knackered, chuck it out quickly, because old flat 120 is not the same as a fresh 240. It just doesn't work. So that's my comment about the Abranet wearing out more quickly. I'm kind of in my mind, I'm always ready to chuck out a piece of cloth backed or paper backed sandpaper fairly quickly. But in my mind, Abranet, it used to seem to last forever. And I just, either I'm doing something different or whatever, but I find I'm chucking them out a lot more quickly.
So it's just feel.
So I might be a hooligan, as Barry said.
But also,
Just,
you don't put your dust extraction on if you're not seeing very much dust compared to a new piece, then you know.
Yeah, and if in doubt, as Clive was saying, pick up a new piece and give it a little test. If that suddenly doing everything you want, then the old bit is knackered.
Yeah, I know it was a stupid question, but anyway.
No,
It's not a stupid question at all.
Use it like you stole it.
Sorry? Sorry? Use it like you stole it.
Yeah, well, you don't mind chucking it out.
Yeah.
Does anybody use Yorkshire grit anymore?
Waste of time.
Yeah,
That's my humble opinion. Unless you're using exotics.
Right.
Yorkshire grit is now £20 a tub. True grit is £10 a tub. Might be a smaller tub, but because somebody bought Yorkshire grit and it's now made in America, so it's ridiculously expensive. Cut and polish is the cellulose chestnut equivalent. I don't totally agree with Clive that it's a waste of time. I just think it's got a place, but I use it less and less. When I was a beginner, I used it quite a lot because it felt to me like I was able to get a better finish because I was probably overcoming some of my mistakes. But if you go through all the grits and seal stuff and do it in a careful manner, you certainly don't need it. It's why Terry was very reluctant to make cut and polish because he didn't believe you needed it. He would advocate, though, that if you do need to burnish a finish that's gone off, that's a hard finish, use his, what is it called, Clive burnishing cream?
Yeah,
That's a very mild liquid product with no wax in it. So you can burnish down, it's almost like denibbing. You can burnish down a high gloss finish, or you can burnish up to a higher gloss finish. So
it also depends on your final finish because most of the time you're supposed to then clean off any sort of residual wax that's in the Yorkshire grit or whatever before you can bother putting, say, an oil on or something. So, because I tend to use oils, it's kind of a waste of time, an extra step I don't actually need.
I would only ever use it if I'm burnishing up something like a sanding sealer because I've got a very fine finish. Use that occasionally, but I tend not to use any of them very much now. A bit like you're saying, Clive. But of course, you wouldn't be putting an oil over a sealer anyway. So using a wax paste on raw wood is before you put oil on, just seems that you've got your metaphors mixed up in my mind. So
I heard it said once that you should use abrasives as if somebody else was paying for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, as if you'd stolen them. Anyway, friction polishes. One of the members of the club, Callum, I think, bought a friction polish because I was using it with him on a workshop here on some small pieces, and then he tried to do a bowl with it and he said it was horrible, which it would be because it's the wrong finish for doing a large area because it quick dries unless you really know what you're doing. It's still one of my go-to finishes for anything that's small. And as you know, you have to warm up the shellac and speed it up as fast as you're comfortable with in order to evaporate the solvents and get the shellac to set. But it will still be tacky for a while. It's a soft finish. I corresponded with Terry during the week asking him whether his friction polish had got waxes in it. And it does because it's waxed shellac. And part of his products, there is some stearate in there. So you really do need to only put, if you have a final finish, it's got to be a wax finish. Something that's a coating, not hard wax oil because that needs to penetrate. Because that was a specific question I asked him, so I thought one of you might ask me, can you put hard wax all over a shellac-based friction polish? No.
So are you saying that you would put on friction polish and then over that, you're going to put a wax finish of some kind?
Yeah, I might put microcrystalline over the top once the friction polish is fully set, if it's going to be handled, because the shellac finish is softer. Don't do it very often. because normally the whole thing about friction polish is it's a quick done and go.
Well, it's
But
also very shiny, which if you then go and put something else on top of it,
it's
you're
very
going to
shiny when it's fresh.
Okay.
If it's not being handled and it's an ornament you're sticking on the tree, for instance, then it's probably going to stay fairly shiny for a long term. Others can chip in, but microcrystalline as a final finish on anything is handleable and quite tough. So interestingly,
It's got a higher temperature melting point, hasn't it?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So if you're going to handle it a lot, that's the finish to put on it.
Yeah. I think different people talk about it different ways. I think some people say you should seal it before you put your friction polish on, because it's a layer as opposed to it going heavily into the wood. If I'm using friction polish, I rarely ever bother with a sealer, because the whole point of friction polish is it's a one-stop shop finish. So, but you probably get a slightly better finish if you seal it and then abrade it back and then put your friction polish on. Does this all?
What does Terry say on the can? I don't think he recommends putting a sealer on, does he?
Can't remember. I know I did try and check, but I've forgotten. We can dig that out in a minute if you like, because we've got his library of notes are available.
Do any of these things act differently according to what the weather's like? I mean, if it's really cold outside, like now, because I'm guessing the wax. I mean, I know in the summer the microcrystalline wax is virtually liquid by the time you get it on. I was wondering if any other finishes have the same effect.
Well, everything's supposed to be stored above 5 degrees, optimal about 15 degrees for using any of these finishes. So, certainly,
cold shed or workshop, it's going to be a problem, or could be.
Yeah, well, that's why he gets lots of questions from people that have sprayed, JD, sprayed a gloss lacquer in a workshop that's lower than 15 degrees, and wonders why 3 months later it's gone milky.
Wow. Because that's so important, because that's literally what I'm about to do for my for this month's competition for the pencil case, lidded pencil case. I thought I would go quite nice and shiny, and so I bought. Well, as I said, for Christmas present, I got the chestnut lacquer, gloss lacquer, and I've already put the sanding sealer on, but I'm going to have to go back, because the sanding you'll only criticise. So,
he's learning fast, this guy.
And I might even use, I've forgotten who I said, but the right down at the bottom, I just can't get it. It's still a bit rough. So somebody said, well, do something like a little disc and have that really nicely sanded and drop the disc in.
Drop it in and glue it in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It might have been you, Richard. So that's where I was heading.
Hang on.
And then the next thing I'm thinking, right, I'll be close to doing this, because I've made it now. It's made, and so I'm now getting to the final stages, and that's exactly what I was going to do, Malcolm. I was going to spray. I mean, I can really warm my workshop up. It got flipping hot in there the other day, but you can't do it under 15 degrees.
Well, I'm sure there's a magic temperature, but that's me just saying that if it's a moist, cold environment, and a cold environment, if I remember right, will retain a higher moisture content, and you spray it, then the spray will pick up the moisture, and it'll start to set if it's too cold before it settles on the surface. And then you try and put another coat on top because you think it's gone off, and actually what happened is that it's gooey below the surface, and then you spray another coat on top, and it makes it even fucking worse. So a warm, well-ventilated environment, your bedroom, would do very well.
Do it in the kitchen.
Anyway, there is a friction.
We'll end up in the dog kennel. Keeps this up.
Yeah, just wear your mask.
So cracking on, there are some friction polishes. There's an Australian one called BWA, which comes in a cream or a liquid, and that's got carnauba in it. And there are all sorts of these people that shine juice, magic juices, or whatever, different versions of friction polish, which is shellac and linseed oil, blow, and white spirit mix. That's what they basically are, with all little special additives. I'd like to try it, but it's about 23 quid for a small pot. So I kept on looking them at tool posts and never bought them. But the people that do use them say it gives you a super glossy one-stop finish. But I also asked Barry, I said I was running out of friction polish because I'd made so many Christmas decorations for the National Trust before Christmas, and I was eyeing up this little pot of French polish that I'd got, thinking, as it's basically shellac and it's the same thing, could I use that instead of friction polish? So I asked Terry the question. He said, no. Anyway, his view was that it would dry too quickly on the lathe, and it hasn't got the additives in it that would mean that it would work when you spin it up. I mean, Richard's probably got more experience than any of us with this stuff. He also said the shellac in it isn't bleached, so it would colour the wood. It's a variant of the product that isn't really suitable.
And the other thing is, it's not very durable. I mean, it's if you get water or damp on it, this, that, and the other, it'll go cloudy for it as soon as look at you.
As indeed will, I think, friction polish, which is why if you use it on anything, you're going to put something damp on. Even if you just use a bit of microcrystalline, it will protect it a little bit, but not a lot. So then you go on to waxes. Hope this isn't too boring. It's attracting discussion, so that's the main thing.
Good, very good.
Antique people will stick it on bare wood. I mean, we would normally only put it over a sealed base, but you can just whack it on. You've got to be careful if it's got an exposed grain, because the wax will, as it dries, usually after you've given it to the person because you've done it in a hurry, just as a gift, and you shoved it in their hand, then the wax will go white as it dries. So you want to not really do it on a porous grained wood. Some people will use a hairdryer on it and melt the wax into it, but I think it tends to come back. I have overcome that sometimes by when I've done it and didn't realise it was going to make that bit of a mess on a darker wood. I've then rubbed a coloured decorative wax in, like with a copper finish or a metallic finish, and that then makes it look like it was an art design rather than a cock-up.
Could I just ask, what does BLO stand for?
Blowjob.
Boiled linseed oil.
Boiled linseed oil. Yeah, boiled linseed oil. Raw linseed oil doesn't polymerize as well as boiled linseed oil, which there's a technical chemical change that occurs, which is so it's not raw linseed oil, it's boiled linseed oil, which is most of the stuff that you've got on your shelf will be boiled rather than raw.
Use raw on cricket bats.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why, but
and I think also if you're doing stuff with lead, like if you're doing lead flashings, you polish it up with raw.
Oh yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that blow originally, when it's boiled up, they used to boil it with lead. They used to boil the linseed up with lead bits in it, according to some of my memory from research a while back, which is part of the reason it converts into blow. Anyway, as an aside, beeswax, you can read all that. It's great, but it dulls when finished, dulls when you handle it. Then you've got all the synthetic waxes, subtle differences. Microcrystalline comes from crude oil. It's a different, what's the right word, titration from the petroleum to paraffin wax. But the Renaissance wax is guaranteed to be acid and stain free, which is why it's museum quality, because it goes through a more rigorous manufacturing process according to them. And the more coats you build up with microcrystalline, not necessarily in one go, but over a period of time, the luster will develop as you add more wax on, if you burnish it up over a period of time. And then you get microcrystalline that's not pure, that's mixed with carnauba and fragrances. If I stick a bit of black bison on something and offer to sell it to somebody and they smell it, they say, "Oh, doesn't that wood smell wonderful?" And they buy it. It's just the scent that they stick in black bison that makes it smell nice. Nothing to do with wood.
Yeah. That's why we always used to use it.
Yeah.
It really was. It was a great trade trick. We used to use Libron.
Yeah. I should buy it more often, to be honest.
But they're a great company. Yeah.
Yes, the Libron products are really good.
Yeah.
Paraffin wax, obviously, you can buy it in pellets, stearate, and use it to seal your wood. Or it can, you buy your simple paste waxes that are basically from paraffin wax. So I don't use it myself. Carnauba, as you know, is from Brazilian palm tree leaves, and it can, as it's used in lipstick, you can use it on anything really.
Also used to coat M&Ms, I've been told.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't put lipstick on a pig, though. Apparently, that's another joke, isn't it?
Are there any? So are any of these food safe?
Yes, carnauba, as you can eat it, is deemed to be food safe.
Yeah.
None of the other real waxes, to the best of my knowledge, can be deemed to be food safe, apart from beeswax, which is a natural product. You can paraffin oil, which is an oil which we come to in a second, is food safe. So I guess a pure paraffin wax finish could be food safe as well. But anything,
you get these worktop oils, which are all food safe, aren't they?
Yeah, as an oil. If we go into oils, yeah. So just running through that and see if it picks up your point, Adrian. It's got to be on bare, not sealed wood. You can pre-stain it with something that the oil won't mobilise, but the oils can also usefully mobilise a stain if that's what you want, but you're not supposed to tint the oil, I believe. Just a reminder, tung oil comes from a tung nut tree. You can use it, but you've got possibly a week of drying and 3 or 4 coats. You've got to decide what you want to try and do. So all the finishing oil variants, of which there are lots, they are resin solvent mixed with tung, usually in some shape or another. The solvents accelerate the polymerizing drying process. Some of them can have UV filters, so that means that helps a piece that you do and stick in the window. It helps the colour of the wood stay stable. Most are toy safe when cured, but read the small print in case somebody says it isn't. And the more layers, 3 coats, the magic 3 will build up your finished oil finish. And finishing oil, I believe we should be using it more often, generally speaking. Whether you like paraffin oil or lemon oil depends whether you like a dull finish. But I like the oil, finishing oil. I use Libron mainly. And it's quite benign. That's the nice thing. And as it, if you let it go off in a warmer environment, put 2 or 3 coats over it, you get a really nice, deep, lustered finish.
So you said the magic 3. So that was. Am I guessing it that if you want to move up to the end of the green table, that you have a minimum of 3 layers of whatever finishes you're putting on? Is that sort of the standard rule? I mean,
well, if you put 6 layers on, you'll have typically an unstable matrix, because you've got layer on layer on layer on layer, and so too many layers, unless the layers are solventing the lower layer and bonding properly with it, which is the whole tung oil issue, isn't good. And if you do 1 or 2 layers, you probably aren't getting the most out of the depth of luster that you might be looking for.
And that goes with waxes, oils, everything. That's the sort of
I think
standard.
it generally does, doesn't it, Clive? Would you agree or disagree? You normally got an opinion on
I
those
don't
things.
think I've ever used 3 layers of anything in my life, but mainly because I'm lazy.
And again, I think Terry will say that for the lacquers, 2 is the maximum. They're designed to not go further than that. So, John, it's only on oils that you really may want to put more than 2 on.
Yeah.
So every waxes and lacquers, it's 2. Yeah, max.
Yeah,
And oils.
I mean, I'm talking in theory. I'll often just do. It says you've got to leave it 6 hours for an oil. If the wood is absorbent, I'll put it on. 15 minutes later, I'll put another coat of oil on it, and then I'll call it a day. And I might go back to it 24 or 36 hours later and just see if it feels like it could absorb a bit more, and then I'll stick another coat on, usually with it off the lathe, just a light coat, and then I'll let that go off properly. And then if I really want to get that burnished up, I'll use a slow burnishing wheel, with a bit of Canuba on it after 3 or 4 days to just buff up a little bit more on the surface. That's
what I was just going to ask on hard wax oil. Is hard wax oil a different?
That's the next slide.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just going back to oils, though, basically, I think you'll find that most of the instructions, say, particularly with the finishing oils, are put it on, and then 20 minutes to half an hour later, get rid of the excess, and then let it dry, and give it plenty of drying time.
Yeah, particularly for anything like tung oil that's a pure product, because it's so slow and goopy to absorb in. Yes, and that's very good, Richard. It's less is always more small layers, which is why the magic 2 or 3 come in. Don't put it on too heavy-handed too quickly.
An oil that I used to buy, which apparently it was from IKEA, which apparently they don't do now.
Skid.
Which was, sorry?
Skid.
That's the chap. Skid oil. I used to like that, but apparently they don't make it. They don't sell it now, do they?
Your old mate, Mr. Nisbet, he was a great advocate of that.
Yes,
and
he was.
I've actually got a bottle of it. It's food safe, and it is a very clear oil. Yeah. Nice stuff.
I think I've got a couple of bottles down there.
Yeah.
But I haven't used it for a long time. But it is. That was my go-to finish, really.
It's the one I'll use when I want to get that sort of look for food safe.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it's particularly. I think I made it for worktops.
I personally don't like a real shiny finish because it can look, to me, it can look a bit artificial.
Yeah, me too.
I know, right? Yeah. Haven't used it a lot.
Can I ask you, have you ever marked anyone down because something's too shiny?
No, apart from the fact that if it's shiny, the more shiny it is, the more it will expose the defects in your abrasion. So the tip is go for a satin finish rather than a high gloss finish if you're not sure.
Back to the drawing board, John.
and John, just to drive you up the wall, satin lacquers, according to Terry, have got slightly more body in than the gloss lacquers. So if you actually put satin on and use the burnishing cream, I've managed to do 4 layers of that. I know it's against the rules, but I did 4 layers on a piece, and I got an absolute stunning gloss finish using the satin, but letting it go off for a day, and then going back and burnishing cream, and then doing it again. So you can burnish your satin up to gloss. I think you can probably dull the gloss down to satin if you want, using some tea.
Wire wool.
Wire wool.
Oh. Yeah, we used to do that. We used to use matte or semi-matte lacquers. They tended to be water-based, but we could burnish them right up with polishing creams and get them into a very high gloss.
There you go. Well done, Richard. You've done it. Yeah.
It is because of those solids that are put in it to make it semi-matte or whatever you want, and it's those solids which you're getting rid of. The body of the lacquer is actually the same, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, trying to crack on because I've got the carers arriving just at 9 o'clock, so I've got about 15 minutes, and I might have to do a bunk for a bit. I can come back, but Danish oil and teak oil, I mean, they're variants of tongue mixed with linseed or tongue mixed with varnishes. Danish oil, they can be highly variable. There is no exact formula. Danish oil is just a name. Was it Mr. Rustin that first did it? I think it was. Teak oil's mainly for outside, I think, as is Danish oil, but you can use it. Linseed oil, by the way, linoleum is linseed oil in oleum. So that's where linoleum came from.
What, it smells like linseed oil?
Yeah, because it is linseed oil. It comes from.
Ever been to Dundee?
Only for the cake. But paraffin oil, lemon oil, butcher's block oils, they're all supposed to be food safe. And butcher's block oil is like your skid in one shape or another, I think. So there are other loads of natural oils, different types. There's only a limited number of natural vegetable oils that actually polymerize and semi-harden. That's the list of which I know: walnut, hemp, soy, and grapeseed. A lot of them will, like vegetable oils, rapeseed oil, I don't believe they polymerize. They stay in or on the surface, but in a semi-liquid state, even though, that's why they go tacky. And vegetable oil, like olive oil, when it polymerizes, it goes rancid as opposed to polymerizing chemically and going hard. Anyway, and walnut oil, the Americans love the refined walnut oil. I've forgotten who it was that sold it.
Mahoney.
Mahoney. Yeah, and they love it, don't they? But it's very expensive, if not difficult to get over here, I think. Anyway, hard wax oil. It is a different product slightly. It is a mix of oils, beeswax, carnauba, some wax content. The good thing is when it goes off, it does go off really hard. It was originally, I believe, used for school hall floors, the maple floors, so it's a very tough finish when it goes off. And as I think I said in my note, I use it quite a bit. Different manufacturers, they've got a different level of gloss. I believe Chestnut now make more than one level of gloss with them. I quite like the Fiddy's one because it comes in a tin. I can brush it on, it's just a great universal product. It is deemed, believe most of the manufacturers say, it is toy and food safe when hard. It's quite easy to apply. It does go in, right? It's not a film like a wax that sits on the top, so it has to go into the wood. So if you over polish, if you over abrade your wood and go 400 or 600 and you start to get it to be less permeable, your hard wax oil may not go in as well as you might like. After you've got a couple of coats, you can denib it, you can abrade it, you can wax over it, and it brings out the natural grain of the wood. And when somebody says to you, "Oh, I like the bowl to look as close as possible to the natural wood, I don't want it to look finished," one coat of a hard wax oil will give it a reasonable treatment and reasonably robust, and it'll be as close to, if it's a natural clear finish, it'll be as close to the natural wood as you can get, in my humble view. Does that answer any of your question, Callie, about hard wax oil or not?
Yes, it does. Yes, and yes.
Sort of.
Again, how many? I lost you. I've got a terrible internet connection today, so I lost a little bit of what you said. But is that the same 2 or 3 coats, layers?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Cox, I think, did 10 layers slowly over a period of time to seal the inside of a beer mug that he made so that it was completely waterproof. I think if it wasn't 10, it was a load of layers. and he said it worked. But I'll do usually 2 layers myself. Richard, any advice on that?
Yeah, no, I think 2 or 3 is about right. I agree with that. Yes, yeah, it does take a bit of time to. You want to leave a decent bit of time in between coats, though. I think.
Yeah, but because the first coat usually goes in quite quickly, I will usually, if I'm doing 2 coats and I want to get it done, by the time I've wandered around the garage and had a cup of tea, I'll put the second coat on, and then that'll be it. And I'll then bring it into the house where it's warm, leave it for 24 hours at least, and it'll stop being tacky. And then I might wax it if I want to, or I'll certainly burnish it at that point, because it's sufficiently hard when it's chemically set that you can use burnishing cream to actually bring the shine up. And all that will do is just shine the surface and not remove the product.
Can I ask, is this like hard wax oil just on bare wood only? Don't put it on, and that's all you use, and don't put it on sand sealer.
Correct. Mustn't put it on sanding seals. Got to be on bare wood.
Yeah.
Okay.
It works pretty well for natural edge stuff because it'll bond reasonably well to the bark, and actually go fairly hard, almost like a CA glue. If you have a little bit of damage or something.
Very good point. And it also, if you've got end porous, if that's the right word, you've got, like I was saying, you show a wax will go white in a surface that's at all porous, the end showing. You use hard wax oil, it'll just go in. So if it goes into the bark and everything else like that, it's a very forgiving treatment.
And you apply it. Oh, sorry, Clive. What do you prefer to apply it with? With a cloth or a brush, or a? Does it matter?
Brush or an old pillowcase, usually.
Yeah, it depends, because it can. I say, we'll play about will. It depending on the weather or the temperature, it will set reasonably quickly. So I tend to. I mean, the instructions usually vary between manufacturers, but I tend to whack it on quite thick, but then get it off pretty quickly. Any excess off pretty quickly, and then just use a fresh piece of kitchen roll, really, because if you use the kitchen roll for too long, you end up with bits of kitchen roll coming off all over it.
Yeah, hence why I tend to use a pillowcase or a brush. But yeah, I agree with all of the above, Clive. Yeah,
I think variety is available.
But it's my go-to now. I've tended to stop using the other ones.
It's my go-to as well. Friction polish for quick when I'm knocking stuff out, and hard wax oil. That's my go-to.
Can I ask one quick question? Last one. Is it good with really punky wood? Will it like harden it up?
It'll harden it up. It won't necessarily harden it up as much as soaking it in with cellulose sanding sealer.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure that if you want to use the cellulose sanding sealer, if it's still punky after you put the sanding sealer on, you could try putting hard wax oil on. It doesn't mean that it will fail. You've got to allow it to absorb into the surface, because it's not a film. It's got a bond inside the surface. It doesn't have to go too deep. It's not like the sanding sealer with lots of solvent in it, lots of thinners, will go slurp right into the matrix of the wood, won't it?
I might give it a go.
You have to experiment, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing with hard wax oil is it can get pretty hard and go off in the bottle or the can.
Yeah.
And of course, Terry's got this famous inert gas that he can spray into the bottle, which I've been meaning to try out, but I haven't got a can yet.
No, I haven't either. I find the way around that usually is a long screwdriver. You bash it down across the surface.
Which is about 1/4 of an inch thick. And then it's even thicker underneath, I know. Yeah.
The wax you spray in is argon. If you don't want it to go off, if you spray argon into it and then seal it, stop it going off.
It's argon, is it? It's not nitrogen.
I wondered if it was nitrogen, but I don't know. Yeah. Paul Williamson said he bought some from Terry and he's used it with good success in his cold shed on a few of his products.
Right.
So, speaking for him, that's what he said.
Can you buy
I thought
bottled
it was a
argon?
good idea to decant it into a little hand soap dispenser, with a plunger on the top, which worked lovely the first time. And then it did what it's supposed to do. It went hard.
As soon as you mix these products with oxygen with the air, because you're decanting it, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And good piece of advice for you, Barry, is if you use melamine lacquer on this slide, give it a very good shake before you actually start to. I'm joking. Do not shake melamine lacquer, because the air bubbles will get in it, and you'll have to let your can rest for days before all the bubbles come out. So
I've never been one to use lacquer. I don't know why.
Well, JD is going to be experimenting with his high gloss lacquer,
And
which
you
we're
can
all going to look at.
And you're all going to look at it and critique it, aren't you? I can tell you.
You bet.
Try again.
My tip is that I buy the satin acrylic lacquers from Terry, and I buy gloss solvent lacquers that are car spray lacquers from wherever I can get them cheap, and I find them every bit as good, and they're half the price of buying Terry's lacquer. But
you're a bit of an old tightwad, aren't you?
Yeah. Melamine lacquer, you've got to be careful, because if you put it on too well and you get it all lovely and smooth and you burnish the surface, it looks like what it is. It's plastic. But it is rock hard, tough stuff. So if you want to actually coat the inside of a coffee mug or something, it's not a bad product to use.
I've actually got a tin of that recently to try out on boxes, because I've been watching a lot of Ray Key videos and he used it all the time. So I'm experimenting with that.
Well, be interesting to know how you get on.
You've mentioned burnishing cream quite a few times, and you've talked it for different finishes, and particularly with lacquers. So again, the next stupid question is: so between layers, you say, and I've got some chestnut burnishing cream, but how do you apply that, and then how do you get it off? What do you use?
You put it on with, doesn't really matter, but
Cloth
I would use then the burnishing wheels to polish it up hard, which put it on as a cream and just gently smear it on, and it will get dispersed evenly over it. It is the last things you start to do. You can get various grades of burnishing cream. I think Terry only makes the one, but I use some which are made for the car body finishing process, and it's a bit like, you can use Brasso and Silvo and all those. They are burnishing creams, liquid.
But I've got the 3 buffing wheels from Chestnut, yeah, and we got the hard. I know they're not, but the hard blocks that you go for each of the different wheels. But this is ahead of that, isn't it? So
no, the triple. The brown is coarser than the. I think the brown and the white, and then burnishing cream would be the order of. Would you say, Richard, that I would put it in?
Yeah. Burnishing is when you're using creams and pastes and solvents like that, using them as the very last thing, and you work it out until you just got no more. If you were to, and particularly on acrylics, what I do is I work it down to about 4,000 grit paper, and then use burnishing cream on that, and it looked glass-like.
Yeah. So when I mentioned that I've used it on a gloss lacquer, if you spray a gloss lacquer on and you feel it with your fingers, and you've actually got a slightly rough surface in your first spray, that could be because it's pulled the grain up, I don't know, but it could just be dust, it could just be the way that you sprayed it. If you let that go off and then you burnish that with a bit of burnishing cream, it will make it very smooth, clean it off thoroughly, and that's where meths comes in, like Callie has said. If you if you have to, and then you put another layer on in a warm bedroom, and you'll get a much better finish for the second coat. Would you agree, Richard?
Yes, I think that's all fine. I mean, one of the things, going back to the cellulose spray, when you look at the top of it and get it on across the light, is to be highly critical. You can easily get sort of orange peeling look about it, and then you've got real problems at burnishing off, because you're just taking the tops off the hills, and you've got a lot of micro indentation. So again, you've got to be really very, very smooth before you start using the burnishing cream on it. And then and of course, in that situation, you can easily see the cream lying inside those little hollows. And we're talking micro hollows, but you want to be pretty smooth before you start doing it.
You were saying about acrylics,
judging
Richard.
done at about 6 feet, really, don't we? Any judges minimum distance 6 feet away from whatever you put on the table.
The answer, John, is to experiment with pieces before you submit them for judging.
You were talking about acrylics, Richard.
Yes.
And you say you only go down to 4,000?
Yes, only 4,000. Do you want to go higher than that?
Well, I've got the micro mesh pads, which
Yes.
I use wet on acrylics. I use wet. Go down to 12,000.
12,000, right?
We're talking about if you put polish on it, it will make it no better at all.
No, when you've got to that level, I can understand that. Yeah, sure. But again, any sort of abrasive like that, which you're doing by hand, you're still essentially putting scratches in it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you probably are, but none that you physically can see.
Yeah. But we're probably talking about getting a mirror finish then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, which is ideal on a pen, for instance.
Yeah.
So this is my last slide. I've got 10 seconds more talking, and then I'll shut up. Wipe on poly. Americans love it. What is it? It's just polyurethane that's thinned. So it tends to, in my experience, limited though it is, it tends to be white spirit and oil-based polyurethane that you thin. Because I think if you thin acrylic with water, I'm not sure that is going to produce something that is stable. So I've found an old tin of oil-based polyurethane in a shed that I'd had for about 10 years. And I stuffed some white spirit in it, 50-50, swirled it around, stirred it up, and it worked. So I thought, oh, okay. So then I bought a tin of wipe on poly from Terry, and it's just the same, basically. What it does do is it raises the grain quite a bit, in my view, when you actually apply it onto unsealed wood. So best to seal it first and then coat with the wipe on poly above it, because that will give you a smoother finish, just like you would do if it's an acrylic lacquer. But it's the Yanks love it, and yeah, it's the thing about it again, like polyurethane, it's rock hard when it actually goes off properly, like the acrylic lacquers are, or the lacquers from Chestnut. Hang on, I'll stop my share now.